The ocean is still a place of mystery, and it's unlikely we will ever learn everything about the world underwater and the many secrets it holds. However, every day new things are being uncovered. Many are spectacular and wondrous, and some are plain scary. As you'd expect, we are looking at 5 of the latter. So hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. The Skeleton Lake. A shallow lake in the Himalayas, known as Rupkund, may not look like the ideal place to conceal secrets, but this high-altitude glacier lake, located in the Uttarakhand state of India, is the last resting place for hundreds of people, thought to have been killed in a sudden violent hailstorm in the 9th century. The skeletons only became visible at the bottom of the lake for just 1 month out of the year, when the air is warm enough to melt the ice covering them, and they were first spotted in 1942 by a game ranger, although rumours of their existence had been widespread for years. Investigations were carried out, and it was estimated that around 300 human remains lay at the bottom of the lake, along with their tools, shoes, jewellery, and other artefacts. Years later, a team from National Geographic magazine retrieved 30 of the skeletons, and were horrified to discover that flesh was still attached to some of the bones. It was also determined that the majority of the remains were of Iranian heritage, with just a few of them from the local population. It can only be speculated how so many people met such a sudden and violent death. However, the local legend says that the king of Contac, Raja Jastahaval, and his pregnant wife Rani, along with their vast entourage, went on a pilgrimage to Nanda Devi shrine, and ran into a fierce storm near Rupkund Lake, and giant hailstones rained down on them, killing the whole party. All we can think is that it must have been some large hailstones to kill that many people that quickly, and it's likely something far more sinister was responsible. What do you think? Mysterious underwater cave system in Mexico. For centuries, Soquayum, a flooded sinkhole located in Mexico, Yucatan Peninsula, terrified the locals so much that they would not go near it, as they believed it was guarded by a feathered, horse-headed serpent who would snatch anyone who got too close. So when underwater archaeologists sought permission to explore the flooded cavern, a local shaman performed a traditional ceremony to ask permission for the researchers to enter and appease the serpent. After entering the water-filled cavern, the archaeologists discovered that there may be a very good reason why the villagers feared the place. At first glance, it appeared something terrible had taken place there, as the cavern floor was scattered with skulls and human bones. However, there was far more to this water-filled cavern than initially thought, and further exploration has led to the discovery of an additional 4 kilometers of underwater passages, as well as an array of archaeological discoveries, and is now recognized as the largest and most important underwater archaeological site in the world. Some of the skulls discovered are elongated, which is consistent with an era when heads were thought to be intentionally flattened, typically during infancy when the skull is most pliable. Most of the remains and artifacts are relics of Mayan culture, when it was customary for residents to be buried under or near their houses, suggesting the bones belonged to people who had been intentionally secluded from the community, possibly due to the plague or some other ailment. More recent exploration has revealed some of the bones date back even further, with one of the female skeletons believed to be around 12,600 years old, dating back to the last ice age. Also, remains of giant sloths and an extinct elephant-like mammal have been discovered, along with ceramics, altars, shrines, and wall etchings, some of which were likely used in funeral and human sacrifice ceremonies. Take a look at this extraordinary footage. It seems that this mysterious and ever-growing cave system holds a lot of secrets, and gives a grim insight into the lives of our ancient relatives, to anyone who is brave enough to explore its murky depths. The Ship Graveyard. At first glance, Chuuk Lagoon, located in the Central Pacific, looks like paradise, but beneath its crystal blue waters lies an altogether different story. The lagoon sits inside a cluster of small islands known as Chuuk State that make up one of 4 of the federated states of Micronesia. And during World War II, the area provided Japan with a perfect base to protect its large ships and military hardware. But in 1944, American forces launched an attack and caught the Japanese with their guard down. And although they responded quickly, it was too late, and over a 2-day bombardment, more than 60 warships and crew ended up on the floor of the lagoon. 2 subsequent attacks in the same year left Chuuk Lagoon a toxic graveyard of sunken ships, leaking vast quantities of oil and gasoline into the water. The Japanese personnel who survived the attack, along with the local population, were left to fend for themselves, and it's estimated tens of thousands of them starved to death in the months that followed. After the war ended, the world forgot about Chuuk Lagoon and the slaughter that occurred there, until 1969. Jacques Cousteau's diving team visited the lagoon to find and document the wrecks. Unfortunately, they found more than shipwrecks. The seafloor was littered with the skeletons of those that perished. The team also took lots of artifacts from the wrecks. However, the expedition did highlight what happened at Chuuk, and a lot of the human remains were removed and given proper burials. Today, Chuuk Lagoon is known for the best wreck diving in the world, and those lucky enough to go down there will see an array of equipment, including various vehicles, weapons, clothing, and other personal paraphernalia. They are also likely to come across human bones, and these serve as an eerie reminder of the real sacrifice of war. Underwater train cemetery. Now, it's not unusual to find a ship graveyard at the bottom of the sea, as you will know from the previous topic, but it's almost unheard of to find a train graveyard. Well, this is exactly what Paul Hepler found back in 1985, when he was mapping the bottom of the ocean off the coast of New Jersey. Closer inspection revealed trains had lain preserved in the water since the 1850s, and they were identified as rare 15-ton Planet Class 222T models, which were only made for a short period in the early 1850s because they were too small to compete with the larger, more powerful models being produced at the time. The question is, how on earth did they end up 90 feet underwater, and why is there no historical record of them ever being built or being lost? Investigators believe the engines could have either fallen in the sea or been deliberately pushed, as they were being transported from Boston to the mid-Atlantic, possibly after they got caught up in a storm. But the truth is, no one really knows, and to date, the mystery of how 2 trains ended at the bottom of the sea is unknown, and they remain in their watery grave until someone decides to bring them to the surface. Pam Fellows. The Antikythera wreck is a Roman-era shipwreck dating from the second quarter of the 1st century BC. It was first discovered in 1901 by sponge divers off Point Glyphidia in Greece, and has so far yielded a number of precious artifacts from that era. But without doubt, the most prized and mysterious of these is the Antikythera mechanism, a sophisticated clockwork instrument that modelled the passage of time and the movements of celestial bodies, and has been described as the world's oldest computer, and is the most sophisticated piece of machinery ever recovered from the ancient world, and to date, scientists still have no idea who made it or why. But this wreck is the gift that keeps giving, and in 2016, divers found buried in sediment the first human remains ever recovered from an ancient shipwreck. Marine archaeologist Brendan P. Foley made the discovery, and he believes the bones could hold the important information about the Antikythera mechanism and other mysteries about the ship and our ancient ancestors. The skeleton is well preserved, considering it's over 2,000 years old. An analysis of the remains, which include most of the skull, 2 femurs, and the long bones of the forearm, suggest that they belong to a man aged between 25 and 30 years old. He has been named Pam Fellows after the inscription on a cup found in the same wreckage. Take a look at this video of the recovery. If only bones could talk, as one thing is for sure, Pam Fellows holds the key to one of the world's greatest mysteries, and could answer so many unanswered questions about our ancient ancestors. So that's 5 incredibly fascinating things found underwater, some of which are rather creepy. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss out on an upload. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.